Okay, welcome back to the Mana Clash. I am Sam Loy, and my lovely co-host is Russell Cutting. How are you doing, Russell Cutting?
I'm doing well. How are you, Sam?
Oh, I'm fantastic. I'm excited to get into some 7-point Highlander action. We're coming into round 3, so this is our last round before a little lunch break, but don't worry, guys, stick with us. We do have a bit of content for you as well over that break. Russell, what have you seen so far today?
I have seen things ranging from white-black humans murdering Bomberman to a room full of Grixis and a couple of other little spicy little numbers. And one of the ones we're seeing today in this round is one of them.
Yeah. So we have, who do we have today? We have Liam and we have Ed. We've got Ed on Reanimator.
Oath Reanimator.
Oath Reanimator. Now, you know something about that, don't you?
I have dabbled in Oath Reanimator before. Oath of Druids itself is an extremely fun card to play, and even more fun if you haven't played against it and have no idea what it does.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got Liam as well on Jeskai. That is a deck that's sort of an all-time favourite for Magic fans everywhere. Hopefully, we can have a look at these opening hands now that they're shuffled up, and it looks like we've got Ed Nurse on the play.
Interesting from Liam, who historically I think has played a lot of Lurrus Breach, so interesting to see them swap from a more combo-centric to something a little bit more control mid-range, which should be an interesting matchup compared to the almost pure combo that Ed Nurse is running with their Reanimator.
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one. So we've got Ed here who wants to take very few turns in this game, ideally. Yeah. I think we're looking for like maybe a 2-turn or a 3-turn game if Ed has his way.
Yes, when talking to him, it's like, I don't know if you want to feature me. The games last typically on average about 5 turns total.
Yeah, exactly. Which is, it's a little bit overconfidence, I'll be honest, coming out from Nurse here.
Yeah, usually quite a lovely person, tends to just flip into this cutthroat shark-like personality, really dead in the eyes as soon as they sit down at the table. We do have a look at Ed's hand here from the Gitaxian Probe from Liam, Control of Cathadoon, Faithless Looting, and Animate Dead, and the recently depointed down to 1 point Oko's Thief of Crowns.
Kind of too good not to play at one point, right?
Yeah, and we do the quote-unquote natty Entomb in the Troll, which will hopefully be able to discard itself to search for land and then be in the bin for that Animate Dead the next turn.
Yeah, it's an interesting line choosing to go for the Swamp Cycle rather than the Faithless Looting.
Looks like the Flooded Strand there search for a Badlands, which...
a classic error.
A blunder.
Yeah, it's one of the classics.
Which we failed to pick up beforehand, but... we'll see.
To be fair, we're no worse than Ed, but we are.
Certainly no better than Ed either.
Well, that's true as well.
But they're just resolving that one now. I'm not exactly sure what the fix is, but thankfully we have some extremely talented judges who will be able to sort this one out.
Yeah, so we've got Liam and Ed are both originally Melbourne boys. I believe Liam's from Frankston originally and Ed's from Ringwood, but Ed's come up to your neck of the woods recently, hasn't he?
Yeah, they're a bit of a traveller with their line of work, but recently in Adelaide, and I have the pleasure of both playing against them and more recently with them in a teams tournament where they were running this deck and having a lot of fun with it.
Having a lot of fun. Is that to say that you weren't doing a lot of winning?
No, we did okay. We were let down by another Ed, who wasn't me. I was an Ed for the day.
Okay.
But
I thought you were an Eddie for the day.
I was actually, it was decided I was an Ed-ish.
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 Ed-ish. Okay, fair enough.
So we're still working out what quite happens here. I'm not going to speculate too much on it.
I feel like what we should really do is take Ed out and give him a good spanking for this. It's frankly below him. It's below him.
It's just bad news, bad coverage. He's taking all the steam away from us, who it's really about, not the players.
It is really about us when it comes down to it today. So when we've got a solution to this, I believe we will see that same line. We have the hand cam given to us, very friendly by Liam. Thank you, Liam. Hopefully he can't hear us actually, but we're going to see a little bit of, that was a very blue heavy hand by the looks of that. So it's looking like this one actually might go a little longer than Ed would prefer. Yes,
a lot of interaction. One would suspect a lot of counter spells to prevent that.
Yeah, Liam's playing a bunch of stuff in their deck. So we've got, some Daze counter spell sort of stuff going.
Lovely. Force of Negation and Force of Will main, which can certainly help prevent that turn 2 Animate Dead should it happen.
Should it happen? Yep. It really a man after my own heart with this Jeskai deck. I love myself some Jeskai when I can.
I do not. I think it's an atrocity. It's interesting to see Arkham to Astrolabe is something I've been seeing in a lot of lists come up this weekend. It was kind of off the radar, off the menu for a long time, but it seems to be being brought back maybe to the prevalence of kind of Blue Moon effects. This deck itself running both Back to Basics and Blood Moon, so potentially a way to mitigate the damage done by their own kind of lock pieces.
Yeah, so Liam's opted for the full contingent in the main. So we've got the Harbinger of Seas and the Magus of the Moon along with Back to Basics and Blood Moon. So we're going to see a very disruptive game plan go on here.
Looks like a rewind potentially.
Have to randomize a card to go back on top of the deck. And we're redoing the fetch here.
Right.
So Jimbo, our illustrious table judge for today, will be our head judge for tomorrow for our team's event. So thank you for sorting us out there.
Okay.
And we've gone for the Volcanic Island instead of the Badlands.
Yep. Not impacting the plan of Ed's too much anyway, as they will probably now be able to get that errant Badlands with their Troll of Khazad-dûm, should they be given the opportunity. So we're just kind of getting back into the game state here. The same hand is revealed in the Gitaxian Probe. The 2 cards will be drawn back by Liam, and hopefully we have a fixed game state.
A fixed one, yeah. I mean, never has Badlands been so aptly named, you know?
It is truly the baddest of lands, the baddest of them all.
The baddest of lands with the baddest of nurses.
Yes, and that looks like a...
So we got a Ponder there? I thought it was a
Ponder or
Preordain.
a Preordain. Might be a Preordain. One of the more alternate arts. Not too many printings has Preordain, and none of them with particularly good art.
It's a bit disappointing, although I do have a soft place in my heart for the M11 variant, the original print of that card. Very fun card.
The one I'm currently wearing is a dual deck Koth vs Venser, which was signed by Luke Mulcahy that I won during the COVID quiz that he ran.
Oh, the COVID quiz.
The COVID quiz. So we're seeing the Troll of Khazad-dûm here is now cycled.
So Swamp cycled, you're allowed to get the Badlands now. Chooses not to get the Badlands, but looks like he's pulling forward the Raucous Theatre.
The Raucous Theatre. Another errant land in round 2, it was discovered that that Raucous Theatre had made its way into Ed Nurse's round 1 opponent's deck. So
how did you come to know this?
I was standing watching the game as the judge came over and explained the situation.
Okay.
So Ed having a really good day with black-red lands and then being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
It's really quite below him, but we'll forgive him for now, and we're going to see this Animate Dead come out. And does it resolve? Yes, it looks like it resolves.
But Liam holding a March of Otherworldly Light to hopefully deal with that soon, although it doesn't look like he has another white card in his hand.
It doesn't, and it is quite high CMC. March of Otherworldly Light, a card that requires you to either pitch cards or pay X with the mana value of the creature or permanent involved.
In this case, I believe it can hit enchantments, and if it can, it would go for the Animate Dead, but I could be well wrong with that.
Okay, so see an Arid Mesa Crack here.
Yep. A bit of dexterity error from there. Hopefully fixing up the mana now. We've got, again, another snow-covered basic, so setting up potentially for a back to basics, which would be incredibly one-sided should we get to that state. And we see a Harbinger of the Seas there in their hand as well, so Snapcaster Mage, Gitaxian Probe, see that last little card that Ed Nurse has, which is a Delta. So while Ed does have a clock, if Liam is able to deal with that, he very soon may leave Ed Nurse stranded on mana with that Harbinger of the Seas next turn.
Yeah, that's certainly very on plan. Snapcaster Mage, of course, not able to block here. You have to block Troll of Khazad-dûm with 3 or more creatures.
Super menace.
Super menace. Very menacing in the film, so I think it's a pretty big flavour win there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all of these cards, both in terms of their flavour to the respective IP and their impact on the game, these land cyclers from the Lord of the Rings set are incredible, and an Oko coming down here might just be a little bit too fast now for Liam to disrupt Edward's banner. That is a lot of pressure and ticking up for a food token, it looks like.
The classic, going up to 6 loyalty is so powerful as well.
A classic Ed move is the deck of cards with the Sharpie for all the tokens. One such thing that I have started to do myself.
Yep.
It's a great way to make sure you always have the right token.
Yeah, I do the same thing, except I do it with blank business cards.
Ah, finally a use for all of that detritus given to you by people on the street.
Exactly.
Much rather would like going for that Animate Dead now, removing some of the pressure. We still have Oko there.
All right, excellent. So that's a bit of a stabilization on the board. Okay, still remains a problem. Those food tokens are going to grow and turn into elks and everything else. So he's got some pressure going on Nurse. So we'll see how he develops everything else at the same time. It looks like he's going to start with a Faithless Looting.
The classic card disadvantage, but when your hand is near garbage with the 2 extra lands, a good move here, and a Necromancy drawn to potentially bring back that troll once more. Because they can go up to that 3 mana this turn. And potentially one of those basic lands there, that black, that kind of off-coloured card there might be one of the Innistrad basics. But I wouldn't be surprised to see the 2 known lands.
It does look like a forest to me,
yes. So 2 known cards, which now leaves Liam with no real idea as to what he's playing around or with. We might see the Necromancy here, but I do believe Liam is sitting there with the Daze.
Okay. Looks like that one is indeed a swamp. There you go.
There we go to the swamp. A faded swamp. The food now becoming an elk. The food becomes the eater. Using a playing card on a playing card and attacking for 3. So continuing to pressure Liam here. We may see the post-combat. And I would expect this to be met with the Daze. But,
so gone for the Necromancy and Daze to punish that play. So still dealing with the Oko is going to be a problem.
Yes.
But we've got a little bit of room to breathe in the sense that we're not dealing with a 6/5 as well as the 3/3s. So.
Absolutely. But unfortunately, it also does look like Liam is stuck on 2 planes and 1 blue source, which stymies how effective they can make their very blue-heavy hand, although they are holding a second snow-covered island.
Yeah, just the cost of Daze being real there.
Yes, very much so, and potentially some sequencing. I'm not sure if they had the opportunity to play a second island before that turn, but that has set them back a little bit. Into the Floodmaw drawn by Edward, that will certainly help against a lock piece in a sense, but we're just going to see that Elk continue to come in and Oko make their impact on the game.
Yeah, it looks like Liam's down to 4 life now, so we're getting to the point where Ed is representing lethal next turn with a food.
Yes.
A food from the Oko uptick being able to be animated for a 6-power attack next turn. So Liam's really under the gun here. I imagine that it is time that Snapcaster starts blocking instead of attacking.
Absolutely, but with a bit of Triumph and an Into the Floodmaw in Edna's hand, it might be a bit of a fight over this, and it has 2 ways to remove potential blockers. But it's either just running into them with a 3/3, which well,
that's also a good way of doing it. Yeah, we'll see how we go here, but it's looking like Ed's got this one cinched up. I think that we're going to quickly see what actually can happen from Liam's perspective, and it probably isn't good enough.
Yeah, well, they're forced to commit to the board, and Edward happens to be holding 2 answers to that commitment. So unless they have some more free counter magic to back that up,
it's like we're going to see the Murktide here.
Quite possibly. So, which is not particularly good against both an Into the Floodmaw and a bit of Triumph.
Yeah, I think Liam's playing really well here in the sense that what you really want to do in these situations is give yourself the chance to find it out.
Yes.
Now, we are operating with a little bit more information here in the booth. So, unfortunately, we know it's not going to be good enough, but in the case that Edward didn't have any of this interaction, Liam's left himself an avenue to get back into the game, and I think that's a really good way to go.
Absolutely, but I will just take any opportunity to sound smarter than I actually am and act with that extra information that I'm provided.
Of course, that's what we do here. It's what we do here. Yeah, Murktide's actually a particularly interesting card against Oko as well, given that it keeps the counters.
Yes.
So even though it becomes a 3/3 elk, it's actually still quite large. So not a bad, I mean, it's not the ideal use of a Murktide, but as far as playing a creature into a Murktide goes, it's not a bad one.
At least it breaks the parity that Oko kind of forces upon the game, making everything a 3/3. And a bit of Triumph there, any which way, to remove the blocker, 6 damage coming through, and Edward takes that first one. Not with large creatures, but with the Prince of Thieving of Crowns and bare chess.
The roguish Oko, dominance in game 1.
Yeah, I mean, that card is recently deployed and it is seeing a huge uptick. It was seen as near unplayable at 2, but a lot of players certainly think it is worth that single point.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been looking through deck lists trying to find stuff for coverage, and I can tell you that there's a lot of decks that are playing a single green
Ah, weird.
mana symbol in their entire 75.
Would that be for a Deathrite Shaman and an Oko Thief of Crowns?
Well, sometimes for the Deathrite, but most often just for the Oko.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly seeing worth splashing. Green did get that little bit of a buff both with the Oko and Natural Order depointings, and we do see a bit of a not full shift to green, but just a slight splash to play these extremely powerful cards.
We've got some really interesting timing with this event as well. I think that Volti and Saha will return to this as the day goes on, but the recent point changes have caused a bit of a fluctuation in the format, and I think they've made some really interesting changes that we're seeing into the deck list now.
Yes, mid-range and fair decks certainly copped a bit of a beating, which I am always fine with because I despise both of those things. And some of the more kind of combo-centric or more powerful lines have been a little bit more unlocked here. Going into sideboarding, I would expect things like from Ed, maybe getting rid of some of the more disadvantaged spells like Bit of Triumph, which have an additional cost, and if countered can certainly be detrimental. Maybe a little bit more hand disruption coming in should they have access to that on the board, just to clear the path through these control decks, and hopefully something to deal with the problem permanence of Blood Moon back to basics, which although Ed didn't see, might suspect that their opponent is running.
Yeah, it's worth noting this is a closed decklist tournament, so while we know that there's a lot of moons coming from Liam's deck, and it's called Moons, the name we've given it here, Ed does not know that.
Yeah.
So as the day goes on, these players, as they hit the winning rounds, will actually have a better idea of what their opponents will be on, and that will affect their decision making. In these early rounds, though, you can absolutely play your way into a Blood Moon by accident and get punished for it. So it looks like Ed is taking out those cards, which were really good at the end of game one, the board interaction pieces, because he knows that Liam's unlikely to have too many creatures. A creature light build. He knows he has to deal with some. He's seen the Murktide already. But at the same time, having the full suite of interaction there when you could just be reanimating a fatty and countering the counterspell is sort of what Ed's gone for there as well.
Well, you take out your Bit of Triumph, which can be card disadvantage, and you put in a Pyroblast, which also deals with the Murktide at a much reduced mana, and without any sort of sacrifice. So I saw some things like Chrome Mox disappear. I saw things like Duress come in from Liam. I think I actually saw maybe Blood Moon left in, but Harbinger of the Tides left out.
Taken out.
So
It's interesting because Liam's got a couple of areas of interaction for this matchup. So you've got the stack, so we can use counter spells and everything like that to disrupt the reanimation spells. At the same time, you can also interact straight with the graveyard. So with a lot of these decks, they will make some judgment calls based on what they would like to interact with the most. In this case, we're going to have to see as we go how Liam has chosen to approach this matchup.
Recently pointed Tamiyo, opening things up for Liam. They both kept a 7. Ed with a little bit of a mana light hand, but does have a fetch, although the
Fetch and a Vampiric Tutor, but look at that.
Fetch Vampiric, there's a Brainstorm, there's a Metamorphosis Fanatic, there's an Iona, which certainly picking blue or red being the main colours here, going to do a lot of threatening. But if they don't get access to a second solid mana source, I did see a Lotus Petal, they could see themselves in a bit of bother, where Liam can develop the board, create resources through Tamiyo, and hopefully control the game from there.
Tamiyo turn 1 is sort of a dream play for these decks. The card's very powerful, certainly worth the point. Okay, we're trying the Lotus Petal.
Dave's protection to protect their Thoughtseize.
Alrighty.
And we'll see what Liam is exactly working with.
Show me what you got.
So a couple of fetches there, as well as a Spell Pierce, and a Pyroblast, I believe, and that last card.
A little unsure on that card in the middle.
Card, yeah. We're looking at that as well.
It looks like it's one of the MH 2 or 3 cards.
Yes, I think I saw something in their list that confused me. Lose Focus, I believe.
Lose Focus. Yeah. So Lose Focus is... a Replicate counterspell from MH2, one of the commons that sort of never saw play in the bigger formats like Modern. But when you're looking for replications of cards Sorry for the pun there. But when you're looking for replications of cards to fill out a more consistent 75 in a singleton format like 7-Point Highlander, these cards go up in value quite a lot.
We're seeing that loose focus taken down. There is still that Spell Pierce, which is seeing Ed Nurse's hand. If they are forced to fire that Brainstorm off at some point in order to draw a second land, that Spell Pierce could be devastating.
Spell Pierce and Pyro at the same time to really get it done and win any counter war that you need to do.
So they've set themselves really well to just kind of start taking advantage of this slower, potentially slower game and Tamayo generating a lot of resources, although they themselves do not know at this point that it might be a slower game.
Yeah, there's going to be a big value judgment if we see Ed lead with the Vampiric Tutor or the Brainstorm next turn, whether or not you actually do snap up that Spell Pierce at it.
Yep.
I would say in most cases, you'd normally want a little bit more information about the hand before actually trying to cut someone on card access, but sometimes you've just got a hard read,
Yeah, and they really, Liam can sit back a little bit at the moment, generate the clues with those 2 open mana, although they do not currently have access to Pyroblast, selecting both a basic plains and island. So Ed Nurse might be able to... Oh, they've drawn the Polluted Delta, thankfully. Keep themselves out of trouble, but they could have maybe overloaded Liam's resources in that turn should they have needed to desperately get a land.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the Vampiric being a judgment call there is interesting. Seeing that not valued as a mana source was, I think, fair. I'm sure that Ed doesn't want to put himself down a card here as well. So
yeah, well, they had access to both the Lotus Petal and Underground Sea. So, in theory, they could double spell that turn if they really felt the need. But a fetch there is absolutely perfect with that Brainstorm because they can choose their moment to hopefully sculpt their hand and then shuffle away any bad cards, like... Well, quote-unquote bad cards like Metamorphosis Fanatic and Iona, which aren't doing too much in their hand at all at the moment.
Metamorphosis Fanatic, a fantastic card, but one that's better on the top of your library anyway. So the Brainstorm could even set that up if Ed can find a way to put a big, fat threat into the bin.
You don't even need to do that because a 4/4 lifelink is quite good for 2 mana.
Also pretty good. Pretty good.
Tamayo, as bulky as she may be, not big enough to stop a 4/4.
Yeah, an 0/3 won't quite do it here in those cases. Metamorphosis Fanatic is a card that we've seen a lot of since its printing as well.
Extremely powerful commander card. My feelings about those are harsh at times, whether or not they should be allowed in the format, but they are, and they are what we have, and it looks like we are now putting those 2 cards on top. We may see the Miracle of the Fanatic and then a shuffle in response to that.
Yep.
Next turn, or he may just decide to get 2 fresh cards straight off the bat.
Yeah, interesting decisions here. Okay, so we're just going straight for this.
So
Metamorphosis Fanatic, which was, very well called by you, Russell.
4/4 is good. Liam now with access to red mana via that Prismatic Vista, but Spell Pierce not going to do anything. Pyroblast not going to do anything. So those 2 other cards they have in hand had better be a good way to answer it. 4/4 out of range of Bolt as well, so there are not that many easy, quick answers to this card.
I think it's interesting as well that Ed's very happy to go for these, we'll call them medium-sized threats. They're quite large in a game of Magic, but considering the size of some of the other threats in his deck, they're the medium-sized ones to put a little bit of life total pressure on and open the way for doing a little bit more work later on. I think that positioning is really good. That if you can take, a little bit of advantage is fine for this stage of the game.
Yes.
You're still threatening the big side of things. You have a hidden hand at this point, which is also very valuable in this sort of matchup. So I really like what Ed's been doing here and positioning well.
A little bit of a guaranteed threat is a hell of a lot better than none of a large threat. And while you would love to get the 2 creatures for Metamorphosis Fanatic, the setup you might have to do too risky, really. And they have the backup in Necromancy as well. You can just kind of lean on that. We see an Oko. And that ran away with the game well enough last time. You don't need to go all the way over the top
Although, you know, operating in Ed's position now, not as much mana advantage as he had in game one. So Liam's got, you know, we know about the Spell Pierce, we know about the Pyroblast, but he's also got land drops to make. He's been cracking clues. He cracked a clue in response to the Miracle trigger of the Fanatic, just in case he could hit something useful there. And I think that, you know, I think I can see a Force of Negation in hand as well.
Force of Negation and a Prismatic ending as well. So that's going to hit the Lotus.
Okay,
so,
Prismatic ending on Lotus.
As you said, mana advantage, Liam, and you know, with Tamo supplying a constant flood of clues and card advantaged lands, really are to, you know, no detriment at all. You can use every, you know, squeeze all the milk out of the bull, as it were.
Okay, so we have a VT in response to use the mana from the pedal, and then a Spell Pierce in response. Liam can smell the mana problems. Now that we've gotten, you know, to turn, I think it's Liam's turn 4, and Ed missed the land drop on turn 3. Knowing as well that the Brainstorm has put down a card on top, so
yes. Which was fetched away.
Oh, it was fetched away already.
Yes,
My bad, guys.
Yeah, that would have been the Iona.
Okay, we see the other form of disruption here with the unlicensed Hearse.
Has tapped low enough that if they draw a land, which unfortunately they didn't, they could have snuck in that Ochre under the Pyroblast, although it would then be blasted.
Yeah.
At least could have got something out of it. A Duress,
Well, could have dealt with the Hearse, maybe.
Yeah, quite possibly. The Hearse now really putting some pressure. The 4/4 with Lifelink, though, still doing a lot of damage, you know. It's
Yeah, absolutely.
16 to 13 at the moment. Sorry, 20 to 13. So Ed has time to hopefully draw out of these mana issues. We've got the Tainted Indulgence, which does not have enough different mana values, I believe, to just make it a draw to.
Well, sometimes that's not what you want either. You know,
Not
it's not a
often.
May, so
Yes.
sometimes you'd love to put something into the graveyard there. I think Tainted Indulgence, by the way, a card that doesn't see much play now that's rotated out of Standard, but was one of my favorites for a while there.
Like a gorgeous expressive iteration clone in a sense. You have to do a little bit more work for it, but thankfully it is instant speed. We will see discarding the Into the Flood more, a little bit small potato, still holding onto that Necromancy despite the fact that Liam has that Hearse.
Yeah, that's an interesting value call there by Ed, valuing the fact that this Necromancy could mean something later.
Yes.
Once he has found a way to deal with the Hearse. He, of course, has the Oko in hand and knows that is an answer to it. And he's already baited out the Spell Pierce, so we're down to only the one answer for that now. That Ed's aware of. I still believe Liam does have a Force Negation, and it looks like a Ponder as well. So we're going to see the Ponder here. Let's have a look at 3 cards. We'll see if he likes them, and otherwise if they're going to go back.
See, while Liam is winning on a lot of fronts in terms of mana advantage, card advantage, he does not have any pressure, although that is a pressure of a different kind. He is now definitely, that is not going to a tap. Back to basics.
Back to basics. Don't worry, they've caught it, no problem. We can keep moving on here. That back to basics is extremely valuable here. So
But
one
the
of the lock
4/4
pieces in place, more or less.
Needs to deal with the 4/4 though.
Yes.
If he doesn't deal with the 4/4, he is still very dead very quickly.
It looks like that Iona, even though it was shuffled away, has managed to find its way back to the top of the deck and into its hand.
She wants the spotlight.
She wants the spotlight. I mean, who can judge her? Okay, so Tamiyo, we're putting these clues on. Looks like we're going to see a crack at least one of them here. I wouldn't be surprised to see both and the Tamiyo flip.
Yeah, no more lies and Force Negation in hand. Land drawn, Wooded Foothills, I believe. And
where we have
another
here.
land potentially. So Liam's still in a bit of trouble.
A little bit of trouble,
Tamiyo
although
will
we can
slow it
start
down.
buying spells back at some point. Goes to 4. Of course, the plus ability on Tamiyo shrinks opponents' attacking creatures by -1 power, so it won't die in one hit here, and then it'll be on Ed to decide whether or not to attack.
Ed really trying to untap those lands that they are not allowed to do. Ed.
I think that we should just highlight for the viewers that he really is a nice boy. He's just I don't know what's wrong with him today.
Yeah, you know, normally extremely good at doing the right thing. Metamorphosis going after the Tamiyo instead of Liam, so it would have been a 3-turn clock, but just trying to clear that way.
Right, and it looks like it's, you know, I think for Liam's play here, this makes a lot of sense as well, because Tamiyo has brought at least 2 turns extra into the game here. Being someone in significant advantage from a board position perspective, other than the 4/4, what you want is the time to make it that a real advantage for you.
Yes, they are just looking for a way to deal with the Metamorphosis Fanatic, and really at this point, just a creature, 4th Lingus, good one there, just a way to deal with that that Metamorphosis Fanatic. And it looks like a 4th Lingus may be the thing they needed to leverage all of that extra mana. We're looking at 4th for 3 here. So
yeah, going straight for it. So
6 power and toughness headed, even more card advantage, although they may only attack with 2, just to hold 1 black to keep the Monarchy, which it looks like they're doing. Some lovely Charizard tokens in here.
Hell yeah.
I think it's just Charizards. It's at least Pokemon adjacent.
Yeah, some pocket monsters making their way out of the pockets and onto the tables.
At least they are red. At least they are hasty. And I would argue that Charizard could trample over most small humans.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we've got some, you know, some thematic links between Charizard and the Rohan peoples of Middle-earth.
I'm sure they both dislike goblinoids quite a bit.
They dislike goblins and perhaps breathe fire. I haven't read the books in a while.
I'm reading through the first time. I'm
congratulations. I didn't know you could read.
Sometimes. It's taken me a long time.
Yeah.
I'm learning to read as I go.
Okay.
Flight of Strand and also a Forbidden Orchid in Edward Nurse's hand to maybe try to get something back into this game. A 4/4 still, you know, has been buffering their life totals, so they're not an immediate danger from this power and toughness. And
no, it seems very much that Liam is happy to take the advantage of the Monarch and just do the 4 damage. We've got the extra soldier token sitting back to animate the unlicensed Earth, so the 4/4 is in a bit of a locked out position anyway.
Yes.
So I think that's nice and good here. So
maybe just enough of an answer they need, and they're just so far ahead at this point.
Yeah, it looks like we've got a slight life total discrepancy, so the players are sorting that out for us now. Hopefully they can reflect that on our screens once they've made a conclusion on this. Okay, it looks like the issue is how much life was gained off the Metamorphosis Fanatic here.
Quite relevant in the fact that it won't be doing much attack anytime soon, although it will check any further action from those 2/2s. The 6/6 likely to hang back on defense for a while in any case.
Yeah, I think as we go through this game, the players will need to keep an eye on the clock at this point as well. So we've only got 22 minutes left in the round for them. With this much of an advantage from Liam, at what point would you usually think about conceding as the Reanimator player here?
It's tough because you can win so fast.
Yeah.
As a Reanimator player, and your opponent is unlikely to really push through a quick win themselves. So you might only want, you know, sub 15 minutes, even sub 10 minutes for your game to enact your plan when you're a 5-turn deck. And, you know, while you probably aren't trying to get unintentional draws, you just are under less pressure to need 20-odd minutes for that 3rd game. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's in their best interest to try to keep in this.
Yeah, so the right combination of 2 or 3 cards here can still win the game. So
yes, Liam is, you know, now I think in control and a little bit ahead, but it has a healthy life total, and that control in the game is on a nice edge. You know, Oko getting rid of the Hearth suddenly unlocks graveyard possibilities and also checks the biggest creature. You know, have Duress in hand ready to go. They have a couple of basic lands to hopefully just get a little bit more into this game. But I believe Reanimator only runs a couple of basic lands, so they only have kind of 1 burst turn, and a lot of their fast mana was taken out between games. So
we do see Island there from Ed as a way of, you know, making sure that he will have at least 1 operational mana as the game goes on. We're missing one of those burst spells as well with the Lotus Petal gone. So a really interesting position here. We've put Pyroblast on top of the library.
That'll be looking to tag the back to basics, but we already know that Liam has multiple answers to this at some point.
Yeah, yeah.
Although it is an instant speed, so they will need to hold up the 3 mana for 4th negation.
That's true. That is true. I think that one of these things as well for the Jeskai players, and this is always an interesting position for these sorts of decks, is working out exactly how you can close a match out really fast and whether you've got that window or not. Because you don't want to give the Reanimator player infinite time to find an answer.
Celestial Purge.
Celestial Purge all the way away. Okay, so we see the Tameo tick up as well. We've got 8 counters on the unlicensed Hearth. We're getting not quite to the point where you would attack with it, but we're getting close.
Yes, just 6 damage with the 3 knights there. Holding the Hearth up just in case Edward is able to put something in their graveyard and try to reanimate it somehow, even though at the moment they are an island as their only untapped source. Here's that Forbidden Orchid.
Yeah, so we've got the Orchard here, and only taps once. So
One time, and you get a Spirit out of the deal.
All right.
So targeting there.
And I imagine we're going to see one of the many counter spells, looking like No More Lies at this stage.
Ed forced to tell the truth about it.
All right, and that's the
up.
scoop. Okay, nice scoop there by Ed. I think that at that point there's no need to continue on the charade of being in this game, and we'll go to a game 3 here in round 3. How good is that?
Pretty good. Better than a well. His earlier boasts of finishing the game in the equivalent of 5 turns total have effectively been debunked.
They have absolutely been debunked. The closest he's gotten is a DQ.
Yes, well, unlikely to happen. Liam, quite a above player by the looks.
Yeah, Liam's a very chill opponent to have.
We'll be looking for a hopefully turn 3 or turn 4 kill from the Reanimator. They need to get in, get under, get quick, leaving in that Lotus Petal for that reason.
Yeah, I think I was really impressed with Liam's play there as well. I think valuing the right assets at the right time, taking being on the play as a mana advantage and actually leveraging it instead of just treating it as in, just the Tameo. It was also used really well to get things down like that, back to basics before it could be removed from hand, and any other number of options that Ed could have drawn into but didn't.
The right amount of caution and proactive game strategy.
Good stuff. Good stuff. I love to see it.
I can but imagine we will see Ed take the play on this one.
Yeah, so are we looking really at sort of a duress Thoughtseize open for Ed as what Ed would be looking for here?
Quite possibly, at least in their opening hand, to try to, on a effective early turn, clear the way for an important spell. It's even better if they have 2 discard spells, because then they might do something like duress and put something in the yard, and then the next turn Thoughtseize and reanimate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think given the mana disadvantage of being on the draw here, Liam will be looking for some of those free counter spells that he's so well included into his deck. So we've got the 2 forces, we've got the Daze.
Yep.
Daze is a little bit of a problem on the draw, as we saw in game 1.
Mental Misstep.
Mental Misstep being the other one, yeah. So if Liam can escape these first 3 turns without having to return a land to hand and without getting picked apart by the hand hate, I think that's the sort of plan that he's looking for coming out of the gates here.
Yeah, Spell Pierce is another really effective
absolutely
turn 1 play. That's provided Ed doesn't have ways to clear the way. So they are looking at 2 lands. They have
2
an
lands,
They've got a Oath of Druids, which not that effective, although...
We've got the BT and the Ponder.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, that's a preordained there, my bad.
They got a Surveil land, a Mana Confluence.
So that's interesting to me.
They might not have a Surveil land. It might be a 1-land hand.
It looks like a 1-land hand.
He loves
he's going for it. He's going for it. Preordained, pretty good in this situation, to be honest, though.
It is, but Ed
These are going to go quickly straight to the bottom. Let's see what the rip is. It looks like a mental misstep. Yeah.
Punished. Rightly so. Will he shamefully put this mental misstep? He will. He wants to hide his shame.
Hiding his shame. That's a really interesting call. One of the few answers that Ed would have to a mental misstep of Liam's. I think it's interesting here, though, because it does enforce a sort of gameplay here. Okay, what was that off the top? It wasn't a land. Sylvan Tutor. Okay.
And Ed now looking at that VT. I'm a little surprised not to see it in the upkeep. But,
yeah, I am as well. In response to the fetch is very safe.
Yes.
But I think that the chances of this being an important spell, if he had the Spell Pierce anyway, are pretty low. So in my perspective, right, if you don't get Spell Pierced here, okay, great, but you're probably going to get Spell Pierced on the Animate Dead or the Oath Druid. So I would say that, we're probably going to see Ed go get either one of the more important jewels in the deck or actually go get the Orchard.
Orchard, yes.
For the Oath. But either way, we're going to be in a pretty rough position if the Spell Pierce exists anyway.
Yeah, going for the Underground Sea, that Mana Confluence in combination with the Mental Misstep already has Ed down to 14 on turn 2.
Vampiric Tutor, Mana Confluence, Phyrexian Mana, yours.
The life total is a resource, and Ed is spending.
He's in arrears at the moment.
He is in the red.
is in the red. All right, so we see a snow-covered mountain go to the bin off the Surveil land. I believe that is a meticulous archive there from Liam. And Liam just considering carefully what his options are when it comes to playing a land.
Blood Moon, we got a Flage, we got a Supreme Verdict.
Celestial Purge as well, but look at that.
All very good turn 3 plays.
So his advantage as Ed is being on the play here, that one miss of a land drop can make that much of a difference.
Really
that certainly was the risk that Ed was taking by keeping that.
Yep.
I think that with your normal style, with a deck like Reanimator, you would have thrown that one back.
100%. We've talked about it a lot. Ed likes to be a little bit more aggressive than I am. I really value at least getting to the second land. And, you know, Preordain, you're digging 3 deep. What are the odds? The odds have always not been in my favour. So,
well, you know, I will say that I'm a big fan of keeping one land hands in a lot of decks and a lot of formats, so I could see myself making exactly the same play. Looks like we've got a Coma in hand.
Coma.
So that's a nice, powerful Serpent here. Crazy out on that one as well. Very nice.
Yeah, so that's the most recent printing of Coma, not the original Cosmic Serpent. I believe this is the World Breaker.
The World Breaker?
Or even World Eater, I'm not exactly sure. Something to do with worlds.
And worlds and consumption and something. It's not good for the world, no matter what happens.
No. World Eater, yes. Cannot be counted. Well, not being cast. Trample Ward, and makes lots of critters, an 8/12 as well, so pretty hard for the Jeskai deck to normally deal with, although they have a couple of answers there in the Supreme Verdict.
So yeah, interesting as well that the Celestial Purge can remove the Animate Dead. Yes. So Coman does, by the look of it, need to deal combat damage to make the 4 3/3s, becoming a problem very quickly here.
The things that Liam can't particularly interact well with, maybe an Oko at the moment, although the
Prismatic Ending can do in a pinch, yeah.
Can tag it, but after that we have the Oath of Druid. So some combination of both of those cards is really Ed's way kind of to get ahead in this matchup, because a lot of the other more traditional questions in Reanimating cards with Animated are covered by this hand.
Yeah, and by contrast, Liam here, he's got this Blood Moon, which is actually a very, very powerful and oppressive threat here for Ed. Already having mana problems, it's going to be able to shut down everything that's going on. By the looks of Liam's sequencing here, he's going to look for his basic mountain next turn.
Basic island, likely, I would say.
Well, yeah, we'll see.
Sorry, yes,
yeah,
right.
And, you know, we might see the Blood Moon then, although if he's playing conservatively, knows he's advantaged already, he may choose instead to do to just keep mana up. So we see the Oath of Druids come down. Currently can't be activated by either player.
Yes, it's a symmetrical effect.
It is a symmetrical effect, and Liam as well does not actually have a way to put a creature into play.
No.
Even should he want to, which he wouldn't, but you know, should he want to?
May or may not want to. I mean, what's the worst that Ed could really flip?
Yeah, he doesn't play that many creatures, right?
What's the worst that could happen? You know, Liam plays a Tameo, that's a good source of card advantage. We flip over, I don't know, a Grizzlebrand. That can't be that good.
Yeah, it can't be that good.
Celestial Purge it, all good.
So we'll see what happens here. I mean, there's a chance to get a Surveil land here as well, because the mountain will be effectively the same land under a Blood Moon, depending on what Liam's left in the deck in terms of the Harbinger of the Seas.
Yeah, we do see it.
So we see the Surveil land, which means that the Scalding Tarn in hand is likely to go get the basic island. So let's see what we surveil here. All right, it's a keeper. It's a keeper. Oh, he's keeping it a secret from us as well.
I know. How dare they? How am I meant to operate with pertinent information and sound really smart about this game?
Here's the trick. You're not.
Oh, no.
All right, so we can see the Scalding Tarn go here. I imagine we're going to go see a snow-covered island, and we do. So what are Ed's outs starting to look like? We're getting Liam to encroach on them, but he hasn't been locked out at all.
Yes, I mean, from here, he'll be looking for a blue source. He is still holding a show and tell.
Yep.
Currently without a partner card for it. So we're not quite there yet.
Okay. And, well, we'll see them in the Blood Moon now.
Yes.
With a plains up, interestingly.
Right. There's a bayou, which is actually a mountain. So Ed with 3 mountains.
Ed paid a lot of money for his mountains today.
They are very expensive. At least the Mana Confluence isn't going to kill him anymore.
That's true. That's true. and has turned off that downside.
So that'll be the prismatic ending to getting rid of the Oath of Druids, which, will then allow Liam to hopefully leverage this pseudo lock.
Okay, so he's got a fourth Air Lingers in hand. So I imagine that's going to incentivize the removal of the Oath of Druids here.
Yep.
And he's leaving a small window here. So Ed's got a chance to find something powerful off the top. And it's a mountain. Less expensive than the last two he played, but still quite expensive.
Still quite an expensive mountain. Not quite Arabian Nights level, but...
yeah.
And fourth, we come.
Here we come.
Quite effective last game. Quite effective this game. There's the pressure. Here's the cards.
I'm starting to really think that Ed has a very weak Rohan matchup.
Yes. He's unable to... Oh, and there goes the handshake. Bump, handshake, flip, bit of awkwardness there.
Oh, and they're laughing at the table. They had a good time in that one, I can tell. Fantastic work there. Liam Gibson closing out games 2 and 3. Ed didn't quite get there, but had some mana problems. Could have controlled it a little bit better, although, hey, you gotta really go for it with Reanimator sometimes.
The thing is, if it paid off, the payoff is just so high.
Plus, he would have looked really clever on
smart.
Stream, and we've got to value that pretty highly as well. Welcome back to the booth. I am Sam Loy, once again here with...
Russell Cutting.
Oh, that's your name.
It is I.
Okay, yeah.
I sometimes forget it. It is a miasma.
Yes, it is miasma indeed, and I am affected. Thanks for watching us at the Mana Clash. We're going to finish up here, go to a little break. We've got a lunch break for the players and the judges, more importantly than the players, I think. But after that, we're coming back to the booth, and we've got Saha and Volti for you guys, and they're going to talk a little bit about the metagame that we're seeing in the room today and how this room is going to shape up as the day goes forward. Thanks so much for joining us, guys, and we'll see you guys in a bit.
Bye, sweeties.